Hello.
Hi.
You can hear me. Good.
Yes.
Well, before we get started, we're going to wait a few minutes so others can join. Do you have a heavy wind?
I don't think it's too bad now, but it was heavy earlier.
You might be able to hear mine. It's coming through the store so loud.
Set the alarm for too, or we'll just know when it's finished.
I mean, I would still set it
Okay.
at first. I
Okay.
usually can.
I was just sitting in the living room on my couch, just kind of relaxed, and like I could feel something in my hands right away, but I feel like I was kind of also a little bit distracted.
And that's one of the reasons, like for me, when I do my journeying, I'll do it in my living room, but I'll put the alarm on the stove in the kitchen because then I know I have to get up to turn it off.
Okay.
And it just works for me. And I know I can totally relax. I don't have to worry about time. So I'm going to go into that a little bit while we get started. Welcome to session 2. I'm going to light some of my smudge here. Oh. And while I'm lighting my smudge, I just want to reflect. And one thing that you want to do as you're walking this path is you want to be aware of what is attracted to you. And certain people and energies will represent certain things. Or you'll just know why is this energy coming? And so, like, sometimes for me, I'll get something creepy. I'll get some kind of creepy message from someone, or, I don't know. Sometimes you attract weird energy. And when you do, or when it's energy that could even bring you down, you want to make sure that you take care of it. And so, mugwort, we talked about, is the one thing I like to use. So I'm putting mugwort in my smudge tonight, and it will get rid of anything that feels negative or creepy, or sometimes you feel like there is an attachment, or sometimes you see something on Facebook and it's like, ooh, I wish I didn't see that, it's so negative. So if you feel like anything can give you an imprint, you want to cleanse it. And sometimes we will go into a place where we're experiencing a past imprint and we want to cleanse it. When we're walking this path, we don't want to feel like we're ignoring things and living in la la land. We want to take care of the things and honor the things that come. And it makes us become more present on our path. The other things is when things come up and it's like a surprise, these things in life, a lot of times they come and we can always receive help and assistance. And that's why we want to journey, and that's why we want to use herbs as a medicine, because it heightens us, it makes us stronger, it gives us the shield and the energy and the connection that we need. So I'm really excited about class tonight. I feel like I have so much to cover. But before we get started, I want to talk to you about the song that I sent you, the rattle song to listen to. And the reason why I wanted to have you listen to that this week is because when you're listening to it with your eyes closed, I just want you to experience it and take note on anything that happens. Because when we're busy listening to music and something flashes, that's a message. And I want you to kind of just pay attention to what happens, just experience it. Like I said, when we are connecting to these energies and worlds, we're doing it without any type of LSD or drink. So we need to be realistic, and we need to have this authentic connection. And once we know how that communication takes place, and we learn how to connect to certain energies, spirits, or realms, we can pinpoint where we want to go. And that's the whole purpose of this path. If I need to know why I'm depressed and need to know what should I do to get rid of it, I can go and journey and receive a message about what I need as a medicine. And so that's what we're doing. We're co-creating with beneficial powers. We're experiencing positive health. And sometimes when we are doing certain work, cleansing and banishing and soul retrievals, people can experience things that are quite intense. But that's them. That's not the spirit world that's coming forth. And you know, these things that we practice can be very subtle, or it could be extreme. I've had people go through a release where they're actually like giving birth on my healing table. And I've had people that have gone through a death and rebirth. We used to do deathbeds where we would lay in soil and go into a journey and meditate, where we were going into the underworld and into the death changer to be reborn. And you can also do that and journey and receive anything that you want. But this path is to be a path of guidance. It's a sacred journey. You're a sacred journey. So I want you to view yourself as sacred and in connection to the life forces. So the meditation of the rattle is something that I want you to just connect and feel comfortable with, and getting used to the sound and experience it. Now, the middle world journey that I sent, you'll notice that it has no sound, okay? When you're listening to that, you can play your own background music. We left it blank so that when you make your rattle, you can rattle while you're listening to it. But before we integrate music and the rattle, I wanted you to experience connecting to the middle world without anything, just so that you can experience yourself with the journey. Okay? So, this week, I want to take you further, and I want to have you travel into the upper world. See, the thing is when we are walking the path, and when we are doing shamanic healing on people, or when we're taking them on a journey, it's best to create the journey you offer others through the journey you experienced. And that's really what the shamans do. They'll take the path, they'll take the person onto the path of the underworld that they traveled. Sometimes it's a cave. Sometimes it's like a little crack in a mountain. So when you're experiencing these journeys, take note and try to journal certain things that have taken place. And you will always receive some kind of wisdom or symbol, or even an energy of power and medicine. So today I want to we're going to get into some herbs, but I don't want to do that yet. I want to get into some really exciting things. But before I do that, I want to talk about the different worlds, right? So this week, my intention was for you to experience the middle world, and that's the world that we live in. But the magic and the journeying that we are able to go into has to do with going into the realm of vibration. And when we go into the realm of vibration in the world in which we live in, we can communicate with anything. We are interconnected and linked to anything that exists. And so in that place, we are able to speak to people. We're able to speak to spirits. We're able to speak to plants and animals and ancestors, anything. And so if we're in a place, or if someone that comes to you needs your healing and help and they can't communicate, or they're in a relationship, they can't communicate what they really want, you can journey into the middle world and communicate to their spirit. And it is very powerful. And I have experienced a lot of parents that have lost their children on the streets to addiction. And this is something that they have found is the most effective way to communicate, or to get them to call home, or to come home, or to at least let them know they're okay somehow. And to constantly send them healing and messages of not wanting the addiction. So think about that. And what I just described is that vibration in the middle world, the magical vibration. That's what we send out when we speak. Our speak, the things that we speak goes into that. The things that we hold goes into that. And if our vibration is weak, or our empathic abilities are at work and aware, that energy can also invade us. But when it invades us, it's not that magical world of vibration. It's the grounded world that is in the middle world. Because we're no longer heightened, we can't connect to that higher vibration where we can communicate with anything or receive any answers about our life or where we're headed, or to call someone that lives, halfway around the world spiritually. So that is the middle world. The middle world is for us to tap into and communicate with anything in this realm. This next week, I'm going to have you connect to the upper world. And the reason why I do the upper world first is because the underworld is the most intimidating. It's my favorite, though. Well, I shouldn't say that. I like them all. So the upper world represents our new beginnings. Imagine all of the things you pray about, or when you're talking to the moon, or the sky, or the universe, or you're sending prayers to the people that you love that are passed on. That's all the upper world. We travel to the upper world, or we call upon the upper world when we want to create a new beginning. When we need a certain energy, something that isn't materialized yet. When we want to know about the mysteries. Whenever we're searching for soul's wisdom, we can go to the upper world. The upper world will deal with anything that has to do with healing and emotion, guidance, magic, hidden forces, universal laws, ancestral wisdom. But they normally deal with the universal laws and forces. And so when we go to the upper world, we're seeking knowledge about something, and it's usually something hidden. They won't give you information about anything that is, I want to say, materialistic. You can't go to the upper world and ask for money. They'll send you to the underworld to ask for it. So the upper world is the forces of nature, the angelic beings, the galactal, the space. It's some traditions and ancient cultures see the upper world as like the planets and space and other galaxies and other dimensions. The underworld, which we'll go into next week, are the root makers. So anytime we are asking for something that is tangible and material, it's the root makers. And they are the forces of the elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And so we go to the underworld for tangible things. We can go to the upper and the underworld for healing. But the upper world is going to give you a different type of energy healing, where the underworld will give you something like, you need to eat an apple every day for 3 months. Right? The upper world may just implant energy upon you, where the underworld will test you. The underworld likes to test because they test intention. Most of the time when we get an animal spirit, or you hear of people journeying to find their animal spirit or to meet them, animal spirits are the spirits of the underworld. And so when we look at the medicines and the deer or the wolves that cross our path, we know those are underworld spirits connections. So it's medicine and things and powers that are materializing in our life now. So what I want you to do is, while you're experiencing these journeys, I don't want you to think that, oh, you have to go into it and the entire 20 minutes you're just going to watch this movie. But one day you may get the entire movie. What you want to do is just listen and be aware of the pop-ins, as if you were getting, little reaches of vision and feelings and information. And then one day you'll have communication. Maybe in the scene, the spirit will come and you'll have a full conversation. But don't go into it thinking you're going to watch a movie right away, because you are going into altered states of consciousness. And sometimes when we reach a new state, we're like, oh, and we'll just come right back out. We put our feelers in there and there's connections. And there's times where we connect with things for the first time, and it's like, oh my God. Like when you're going to see a spirit, you never know what you're going to see. There's a suspense, and then, you connect. And sometimes it's like an amazing connection, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, I gotta do that again. For me, the first time I saw an actual nature spirit, and I was with a whole group of people, everyone witnessed it. I was walking, I was listening to the creek beside me, and we were talking about fairies and nature spirits, and all of a sudden I felt something hit my cheek, and I turned and looked, and I saw this wings, this winged thing about this big, and I just like, ah! I screamed so loud that you could hear my scream through the mountains. And it like went away right away. And I was like, darn it! And I never experienced it that powerful again. And I was like, oh my God, I screamed like something was gonna murder me. And it's okay. And the thing is when you're connected to everything. You're driving and you take note on whatever you see, you understand that that's what you're meant to see. So the underworld is also a place where we go to end. Things we want to bury, things we want to end. I don't like this path. I need it changed. My path is too difficult. I need it easier. But they all have their own powers. And so when you are dealing with clients or even yourself, you have to understand the powers of the three worlds. Because when they say to you, I'm so depressed, you have to understand what world fits the intention. I feel like I'm cursed. I keep having financial blocks that never goes away. Underworld. I feel like my willpower is dying. I self-sacrifice myself to everyone. I just need more energy. Upper world. I feel like I need to change my career. I don't know what direction to go. Middle world. And you'll learn more about each one of these worlds as we move on. But as you go through this week and as you're experiencing life, people's energies, your own energies, be aware. And if you had a solution, if you could bless whatever it is that you're seeing and recognizing, which world would you call upon? Try to consider that. So listen to the meditation. I will be adding a new one, and it will be up by Thursday morning. And then I want you to experience the upper world. But I want you to get into a place where you actually feel like you went somewhere, or your state of consciousness changed, or you received something. So go into it aware and try to receive something from it. Okay. I'm not going to do the herbs yet because I want to get into something a little more exciting. Let's see. So one of the things that I love about the path of the shaman is not only the herbs that we're going to get into and learn about in this class, not only the rattle that you're going to be connecting to, and the ability to travel to the places to receive help and guidance. See, if I need guidance, or if I need information, or if I'm doing a reading for someone, I know where I need to go to connect. Or I can feel the spirit come, and I know they're in my home. They're ready to relay the message. And sometimes they come days before. And so you want to be aware of your state of consciousness and the ones that you change into or tap into. Okay? So a lot of our ailments that we feel in the day are not even our own. Like, I was having an amazing day, and then an hour before class, my shoulders were so sore. And I was like, oh my God, this just came upon me. And when it comes upon you like that, it's not yours. So I knew I'm picking up on somebody's energy who has really sore shoulders. And so I lit up my candle and I smudged. And when you do that and take action, It will go away when it's not yours. And sometimes we're carrying pains and suffering of other people, or we think they're pain and suffering, but they may not be aware of it. We're picking up on more of it because we're meant to transform or heal that. So one of the differences between shamanic work and other ways of energy work is that we go into an altered state. And that state is required because we're not in our own state. And that is because shamanic work is not only working with energy or with universal paths, but we are actually working with entities and souls. So in order to properly perceive and deal with things, we actually need to go into a state of consciousness that brings us closer to what we want to know. And a lot of times, all we have to do is listen and expand. And that's why that's why the rattle is so powerful. So like if you take a moment right now and you just listen to your hearing, can you hear? Is your awareness of hearing further than a foot away from your head? Well, of course it is. But if you actually pay attention, you may be able to hear the frequency. And so if I need to go into a state of consciousness that has to do with connecting to emotions, we'll put our awareness into that state that we want to connect with. We are carriers of any state we want to go into. And our entities and our spirits want us to have the information. So we go into a place where we become closer to the solution. We go into that realm where it's like, okay, genie, ancestors, how do I fix this? The solution is always there. And sometimes the more dramatic and serious the work is, the more extreme the altered states of consciousness becomes, or it needs to be. So even people who are good at going into mild states can trans out easily, but sooner or later they may find that they go further and deeper if they really go into their shamanic journey. I love it. When we go into an altered state, we're in a different world. That's truly between the worlds. That's truly magic. So a large part of this basic shamanic connection is learning how to control your state of consciousness at will. And the best way to do that is by choosing what you're going to focus in your day. Nope, that guy's an asshole. I'm not entertaining it. That guy's creepy. I'm not looking. And as soon as you start controlling your state of consciousness at will in your day, and you pick and choose the good things and the solutions that you want, you will be able to and are automatically connecting to those spiritual states of consciousness. And you can also learn how to invoke it and call it at will. Our ancestors spent thousands of years working out a wide and varied way of altered state. You can look into every shamanic culture, every tribal culture, every pagan culture, And you will see different ways they entered their altered state. And in the old days, oh my gosh. But now I'm teaching you how to do it where we can just be natural and authentic and connect, a spiritual tool. And one of these techniques in shamanism is actually referred to the Eightfold Path. And so I want to talk about the Eightfold Path because you'll find that there's lots of different versions about this in different cultures. And it's all about altered states. And it seems that, you know, different versions and different medicines and different paths, and people eliminate some things. There's no rules. But all 8 of these techniques were used at some point by our ancestors. So let's go into them. So this Eightfold Path I am connecting you to is something that was not really spoken about, but it's also known as a wheel. And it is truth. It is perfectly safe as well. But it is connected to the sacredness. So let's go into the first path. So each one of the paths has a I can't talk. Each one of these paths has a specific set of skills and tools that the journeyer needs to become connected to, or it won't work. Or you'll feel like you just don't feel like you connected. So these tools and skills are for your own connection, your own safety, your own protection, as well as your own journeys. Okay? All 8 of these paths have been used to one extent or another by ancient and tribal countries and cultures for thousands of years. So the first path, and it's the first path because most people start with it, the path of meditation. And this is also called the path of breath, because when we go into an altered state of consciousness, the form of breathing will change. And some people will actually do meditation with breathing techniques. But your natural breathing will change. So it's important that when you're doing these journeys, you're doing them with your mouth open, you're breathing with your mouth open, because that will help lift you. And if you need to ground, breathe through your nose and it'll bring you down. But it's the technique of meditation. We have to understand and know how to receive our messages. We have to be able to shut our mind off for the universe. And it creates a healthy mind. But we have to learn how to go into an altered state while we're sitting or we're laying quietly. It is the only tool. And people would perform this first path until they were actually able to go into a place of trance work. And when I was going on my path, the first thing that I had to do was learn how to meditate. And that was one of my hardest. And it's because for me, I'm psychic. I see everything with my eyes open. I can see 3 different things going on. So I didn't quite understand how it was going to work. And I was thinking it was like going to be like all of a sudden I'm in this altered state and I'm watching a movie and I'm there. And I really didn't know how to let go because whenever I would do a meditation, it was almost like I knew where they were going, and it was like too slow for me. I couldn't slow down. I was like 100 miles a person type of person, always in a rush. And it wasn't until I went to my first drumming circle. And this drumming circle was only listening to the drum, and that we were going to experience an animal. And so I was like, okay, whatever. So I'm listening to the drum, and I'm listening to them call upon our animal totem. And it was like, even though I was listening to the music, this wolf came right at me, just came running right at me. And it was like right here in front of my face. And it said, "Your name is Thunderfoot." And walked away. And I was like, oh my God, that was like my first meditation. So it was pretty powerful. When I came out of it, I said, you know, I got this native name. And it was this wolf that told me my name was Thunderfoot. And so they told me what the wolf meant. But it was weird because within a few years of that experience, I always had interactions with the wolf. When I went from my first store to my second store, that was the House of Avalon, when we moved in, well, we were painting it, so we weren't moved in. We went onto the back deck, and this is on the 2nd Street in a city. And I'm having a cigarette with my husband, and we're looking over the deck, and all of a sudden, 2 wolves, a white with gray and a black one, side by side, come running right up to us. And they're standing on the ground below. And when I looked at them, they were like gigantic. And I was like, oh my God. And Brett's like, holy shit, those are wolves. And they've just stared at us. And then they looked at each other, and then they ran off. And that to me was magical. I knew I was in my place. This was the right place. And that happened during the day. So when we get into this place, we open up certain totems and powers and symbols that come alive for us. So now I know wherever I go, or if I'm doing a meditation and see the wolf, I know that medicine. So it's important for us to learn how to let ourselves go into these places. Now, after that, I started to enjoy seeing what I could get from this invisible world, because now I knew how I was going to see things, right? So it was a lot easier and more intriguing for me. But when I was walking my path, my medicine man made us trance dance. And we actually had to listen to native music, the rattle and the drum and the flute, blindfolded, standing up, until we became the animal that reached us. And we had to do this without drugs. Sometimes I'm like, I should have just went to Peru. But I know what to me, I learned what it was like. So even for now, you know, when you play music and you start to dance to it, that's a trance when you're like in it. So you want to learn how to get into these places. They're not scary, they're peaceful, they're beautiful, they're healing, they're so enlightening. And it's like, once you do it, it's like, why wouldn't you seek wisdom? So the first path is meditation. And we only have 2 more weeks. So these paths I'm talking to you about, I want you to keep moving forward with them. The second path is the path of ritual. You want to learn how to create sacred space. And you want to learn how to do it deliberately. You want to be mindful. And you want to know that you're connected to the heavens and the spirit. And that when you're doing this, you're putting the meaning and power into place. You can create an altered state just by focusing on the energy that you want to put into a room when you're cleansing it. And so you want to carefully understand how to bring feelings out. And I would practice that. And whenever I was in a class or whenever I taught in a sacred circle, if I can't see the aura around the candle, I can't teach that and have everybody else see it. If I can't change the power of the wind and show people, they're going to have difficulty doing that. So the path of ritual is about being able to create the sacred space, not just a circle that we're used to, but the actual space in the atmosphere we want. If my husband is an ass, instead of telling him, you're an ass, I'm going to focus on what I want him to be like. And I've done it, okay? Sometimes I'll go as far as him being a total asshole to me trying to get him to be romantic. And it's like, oh, it's not gonna happen. But sometimes I end up with him sitting and cuddling with me on the couch, and it works. So practice the path of the ritual by creating the space that you want. When your client is coming to you, you want them to come into a place that's relaxed. And so you create the meaning in the space, and you create the altered state just by doing that. So when you do that, your client will match the altered state in which it has walked into. And that's one reason why I'll smudge before and after. So when we carefully design the ritual, or when we're connecting to the spirit, the mind is in a state of openness. You won't think about your daily stuff. And this path is one of the most gentle. It is the best for doing any type of conscious work, whether you're working with yourself, a group of people, or a client. So it is very much likely to take people deep, very deep. But sometimes if it's worked on too often, it becomes a regular thing. And if that's the case, take a break. Reconnect with a new energy. But people will use the path of the ritual to maintain the energy they want to feel every day, or they'll create the path of the ritual to work on the things and call upon the things that are different. You can change it every day. I make sure every room in my house feels a certain way. That is important. When I go into my room, I want it to smell like lavender. Unless I want sex, I put patchouli. Okay. I have a Buddha lamp, selenite. I have an amethyst by my bed. I have stones under my bed, and my bed feels like it's a cloud. So comfortable. So practice this week creating your sacred space. Walk the path of the ritual. Deliberately make your day the way you want it. The third path is the path of rhythm. And this includes drumming, dancing, and repetitive rhythmic sounds and motions. So before I move on with that, where's my rattles? Okay, you'll see a lot of people have rattles like this. This one's quite small, and I have other bigger ones with real hair. Like I have one that is a real ball sack that's made into like a testicle ball sack, and it's made into a rattle. I love playing that one sometimes, but right now it's got to get a little mend. This one is a buckskin. Where is the rattles though? I wasn't even going to tell you until you got it, but I can't keep it a secret. I love it too much. So the rattle kits that you're going to get are going to be turtle. So you're going to actually get, and I messaged them today because I'm like, where is it? I haven't gotten a tracking number. Hurry up. This is one I made. But yours is going to be a real shamanic turtle shell rattle. And the reason why I chose that for this class is because we're all women. And it's also because of the power of the turtle, which I'm not going to get into right now, but I had to brag because these rattles, you know, you're going to learn how to make them. Okay, so you can make these. You can even say, hey, Georgina, I want to make a couple kits. Just tell me, I can get the kits for you. But yeah, when people make these, you can look all over online. We sell made from $150 to $600. It's incredible. So this, I can't wait for you to get. I know it's so awesome. No, you can't block yourself from it because you want it so badly. But are you putting expectations on it? You know, when we experience something new, we want to go into it in the moment, right? Think about when we go on a date. We can show up and it's like a blind date and we're just open to the experience. It's a night out. Who cares if it's a great one, a horrible one? I'm just going to go and have some fun. Or we can be like, oh my God, I'm on this blind date. The guy's picture is so cute. I hope he falls in love with me and we're married in 3 days or 3 months, right? We can put expectations on things. I don't believe that you can block yourself. It's just about being aware of the experience. And you know, sometimes we will receive a tiny little symbol. Maybe I received the symbol of the butterfly. But as soon as I look at that butterfly and I recognize that that must be a symbol, more information comes. So we need to ask questions. We need to invite it. We need to connect. And that's why the meditation part is important. Because even though if you don't think you're meditating or not, who cares? Your mind is connecting to those places and forces. And that's why I say don't go into it as if you're going to watch a movie. Just go into it and see what you experience. Is it a feeling? Is it a vision? Is it an idea? Is it someone's face? Is it a name? It doesn't matter. It's all, nothing is more powerful than others. But when it comes, it is a power. You might see a turtle in your vision, but the power of the turtle is so infinite in the universe. Every culture believes it means something different, and you just brought it into this world. So it's there with all that meaning. So practice the meditation. The more you connect, the more you're going to get, right? And that's the thing, is there's a lot of people, they'll talk the path of the shaman, but they won't practice it. You have to practice it. You have to be dedicated to the sacredness and to your path. So the third path is the path of rhythm. And so when we're listening, when I first went to my first drumming, the medicine man said to me, what you need to do is listen to the drum. Listen to the drum. And when you hear nothing but the drum, you're there. So when you're listening to that rattle song, and all you are doing is hearing the rattle, you've already reached that state of consciousness. You're already there. Now, what's happening? And the more we do it, the longer and the visions become. But you're not going to be able to just go into your first shaman experience and to come out a medicine doctor with 89 roots. I mean, that took my grandpa's lifetime. You're not going to go into one and come out with it all. But you'll come out with a connection to it all. One that will constantly feed you growth and evolution. And so when we learn what works for us, when we know where we can travel and where we can ask for help, we use it. Why wouldn't you? So the second path is, or the third path is the path of rhythm. Drumming, dancing, repetitive motions, mantras, anything that is rhythmic. And the reason why it's an important part of traditional shamanism is because they called it, to them it was called Lore Era, L-O-R-E, era. And it's actually in medieval writings that they would use drums and dancing just always repeatedly. All shamans all over the world would do this to achieve altered states. And some believed that the origin of the word actually means seething, refers to like deliberate rhythmic shaking used for purpose. And so when we shake our rattle, okay, say I'm thinking about what I want. Okay, say I need a book name. What should I call my book I'm writing? I can go into my rattle. I can use my rattle until I'm nowhere. And even if something doesn't come to me and I come out of my rattle, it will come. The answer and the guidance will come. And the last time that happened, the book cover just showed up in my face. I saw the title and I knew that was it. And that's what I did. So going into the path of the rhythm is important because we need to be in the natural rhythm of who we are, how we feel on an energy level, but also how we're naturally dealing with our day and the things that come up. And so if we go into a place where we're drowning or going below our natural rhythm, we have to call forth the energy or the power or the purification that's going to get us lifted. So the third path is understanding the path of rhythm. The fourth path is the path of healthiness. And it includes sometimes fasting, sometimes detoxing, sometimes you have to purify, sometimes you have to detach and let go, and you know, sometimes you have to turn off social media, sometimes you have to go into the forest or go camping. But this is a time where they would go into the sweat lodge. So they would do a sweat and purify. For me, I will light my smudge and I will bomb this place so that every room of my house has so much smoke, my eyes are watering. Or I have this giant pot I put on my stove, full of water it goes. I usually put in either some spring water, ocean water, or I'll even put in moon water, and then I add the essential oils that I need, usually eucalyptus, tea tree, and peppermint, and I'll boil it until I smell it upstairs. So we need to have our medicines that are associated with what we can collect. We need to steam and have a sauna and a hot bath. And the reason why is because it's a medicine for our existence. It's a part of a ritual. We are reconstructing our health or our energy or the spirit of our home. So it's following in the path that is sacred and healthy for you. And when you do that, your body will change and become your friend. So I have a tough time drinking water. Now I love it. It's like if I don't drink lemon water, if I don't drink 2 liters of lemon water in a day now, I can tell I'm so dry. Or I've been doing my hypnosis. So now I don't binge eat. I don't even think about it. And now I'm craving spinach. And it's like, I love spinach except for the little stems. They make me want to gag. So it's a hassle for me. I have to cut each one so they don't have the stem. And where I live, you can't get spinach. I've been thinking about spinach for 3 days. I know I'm going to end up driving an hour away to get the spinach just because I'm honoring my healthy path and what my body wants. So we need to communicate with our body and let it tell us what it's doing. If my lower back is in pain, I know I need to heal my root chakra. If my sides and intestine is in pain, I know I need to pay attention to my solar plexus. If I feel like I'm not receiving guidance and I'm blocked and lazy, I know I need to feed energy to my sacral. So you want to learn and connect to your body and awareness so that you can understand what's yours, but also what isn't yours. And so if I'm doing a healing for someone and I'm doing the rattle healing and taking them on a healing, cleansing journey, I gotta know that when there's some shit comes on to me, I'm gonna feel it. And you get rid of it. As soon as you feel it, you wipe that off your shield. So connecting to ourselves is important. And that also means, give yourself a detox. All of a sudden, 1 week, don't eat bread. See how it affects your body. And I'm going to go into the 5th path right now, because the 5th path is the path of sacred plants. And that's learning about them. And in the old days, some of the more famous herbs was called Thor's henbane beer or little man mushroom. They would use hallucinogenic plants, and they would be used to get you into a surprise frequency. And that's what it was meant to do, put you into a frequency that is unrealistic to your norm. But the main difficulty with this path is not just the legality and, the things that they would drink and the safety, the physical danger, but it's also about the path of the herbs that we can use. Lavender and the herbs we use in cooking. By sipping it to experience the communication of what it did to you. And so the 5th path is learning about the sacred herbs and your medicine. Using it to burn. You don't like the feeling you have, it's horrible, light up some mugwort, banish that shit. And when we use those herbs as a medicine and as a burning or as a bath, we are connecting to the world of spirit. And we don't have to do the hallucinogenics. So plant and the connection and the things that we want, I'm stressed, I need to calm down, my nerves are chopped. Knowing what herb is good for that and using it is the only thing that's going to be your solution, or you're going to suffer in it. Why suffer in it? When you can, drink a tea and it's done within 20 minutes. Or burn the herb and brush it off you. And so the 5th path, is connecting to sacred herbs and medicines. The sixth path is the path of the flesh. This path involves using love, using sexual energy as a way to open yourself to the spirits. Sexual energy is also connected to the masculine and the feminine energy within us. It awakens our kundalini, and this doesn't matter whether we're alone or if we have a partner. We can tap into our root chakra, our sacral chakra, and connect to the energy for raising power. And a lot of people have heard of sex magic. But in shamanism, it is also something that is very common. And so a lot of times when people are having sex, or they're just tapping into their kundalini, they focus on what they want. They're focusing on the intention. They're focusing on what they want to feel from their lover. They're focusing on the healing that they want or whatever. Sometimes couples will have sex and think about the same thing. And they're holding the same thing. I mean, that's huge magic. So our kundalini is connected to an altered state of consciousness. And when we are connected to our partner or to the power of love, that's part of magic all over the world. We go into an altered state of consciousness and we connect and heal both parts of us, the god, the goddess, the feminine, the masculine. We go into a balance right away. So I know, sex magic. I talked about shamanism, but it's the same thing, okay? And in many, many ancient cultures, fertility magic was tribal. The seventh path is the ordeal path, it's called. I know. The seventh path is the ordeal path. The path involves intentional and careful use of pain. And we use our pain to put ourselves into an altered state. So for me, I sit so much because I work on my desk. And so I always have to make sure I have different seatings. I have my couch, I have a foot massager, I have a lazy boy over there, I can pop my feet up. The kitchen chair is totally different. But I have a bad back from an accident and I sit. But when my back starts to hurt, I know I went too far. So I need to leave, I need to stretch, I need to lay down. I go into a state of consciousness where I'm telling my body, recover, heal. When I'm in the bath, I tell it, get healthy, soak up the water, heal, melt away the chubbiness, take 10 pounds. I am constantly in communication with my body. And I go into an altered state thinking about it. When you're practicing your healing, and some of you are Reiki healers, when you go into that place where you're focusing on the energy of your hands or the sound of the rattle, your body is going into an altered state. It's going into a healing state. But in the seventh path, we use our pain to go into the places that we have to find or connect to get rid of that suffering. Maybe my backache spurs up when, my son is stressing me out. Okay? That is something. So I know I need to go into a place where I can receive the solution for the stress that I have on my son. So we use our pain to find out where we need the medicine and how to get rid of it. Okay. Now some of you may have heard of Odin. He's the one that created the runes, which also created our alphabet. We didn't have those runes, we wouldn't have an alphabet. But the god Odin, who suffered on a tree and bled, carved runes into the flesh of his warriors to create the courage and protection they needed in battle. So we can use our body as a power of light. We can use our body as a power of protection, as a power of healing, as a power to give messages from spirit. We have to understand that the seventh path involves intentional care and use of our body and pains. The eighth path is the path of the horse. I love this because after you hear this and you actually have a dream of a white horse or a brown horse or a horse, every time you experience that dream, you know your life is changing. So the eighth path is the path of the horse, which involves direct spirit possession. It actually brings the gods into the body, the energy of the gods into the body for a short period of time. Okay? If there is one path that is both rarer and more direct than any of the others, it's this one. And that can sometimes freak people out. Now for me, that's how I started doing spirit work, is I could have them go into me. And then it got to the point where everyone was giving me heck and telling me you don't need to do that. So I had to learn how to not do that and trust my ability without having them in me. And sometimes it was more difficult for them to get out of me. And sometimes I would end up getting ailments from them. And to this day, anyone says, well, what are you? I feel like I'm a walk-in. Like I do. I feel like I call myself a walk-in. But when we dream of a horse, or when we have a vision of this horse, it means that the divine has put their power within you. You need to honor that. It's rare and it's powerful. And most people are not wired for this. And there's no way that you can take it or that you can stop it. It's the path that is most directly tied to the belief and spirit of the shaman. And once you've experienced the white horse, you have then experienced the power of the God or the divine inside of you or the goddess inside of you. You won't feel like you did before. You will know that you have received some kind of light or gift or healing. And when it happened to me, it was like it was like every atom of my being changed. I actually felt like every atom changed in some way. So I want you to listen to this again about the eightfold paths, or even write it down and take notes so that you can just be aware of these different states of consciousness. And we're going to talk about more states of consciousness that we can go into. But I find that quite interesting. So for this week, you know what? I didn't even get to the manual. I didn't even start with the manual. So you're going to get a copy of this manual. And I'll use some of it next week as well. I like to just kind of go with my experiences and teach you what I know. But this manual is good, but I didn't even do any of it. Night. I was just too excited about all the other things. So before we go, I'm going to let you know this week I'm going to do another Middle Earth one. And instead of Brett's voice, I'll do my voice. And then I'm going to do the Upper World one. And I want you to experience it and see what you get. You know, if you see someone, what do they look like? And you're not going to experience anything scary or creepy. So just trust that when you're going into these journeys, it's a beneficial thing, okay? You're seeking bliss, okay? When you first did your Reiki level 1, they said they saw a field of white horses all around. Wow, that's awesome. Totally cool. I love that. Yeah. And you know, all we do as shamans is interact with spirits and gods or energies or animals or plants. And it's amazing because through that, we can receive feelings, energy, vibrations, frequency, knowledge, magic. It's awesome. Like for me, everything that I teach, everything that I write about is connected to what I experienced or what the spirit told me. When I first started communicating with spirits, I wanted to know everything. And, you know, I feel most of everything I know comes from the realm of the spirit. So let yourself go into these journeys. When you receive a symbol or when you see a sight or feel, that is connection to spirit. That's all we're trying to do right now, is enter the realms of the spirit. And sooner or later, we will be able to enter those realms for specific performances, for specific requests. So I'm excited to take you further on this. I'm hoping I'll hear when I'll receive the rattles, and then I'll be sending them out to you. But it probably won't be until last class, which is fine because we have lots to do. But until then, have a great week. And let me pick a card before you go. So this week, I want you to walk your life as if you're on a sacred journey. You're on a sacred path. So let's see what we get this week. And you know, the thing is I do my journeying. Like when my son was younger, I did my journeying with my son. I have my family do it and say, hey guys, let's do this. I'm gonna see what can we all get. And you can make it fun. You can do these things in the morning, at night, in the afternoon. So we received choosing your path. All is possible. And that's it. Like that's the main thing, is learning to choose your path. I feel this way. Where's my medicine? Is it in the upper world, underworld? Is it in my world? So you're going to learn how to choose the path for what you want. And it's similar for me when I practice my magic with the elements. It's like, oh, I want to know about my future. I'm going to tap into the power of air. So, you know, when we can choose our path, we can also choose our destiny. And it's magical. That's why we're doing it. And everything we learn and can manifest and learn how to do, we can share with others. If it works for you, it'll work for others. If they don't connect with you, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we read a book and we only get, one good page out of it. Other times we read a book and it's like the whole thing is hitting you. And it doesn't matter. It's all about what you're meant to receive and experience. So don't try hard. Just be like, you know what? I feel great. Maybe I'm going to do a journeying, or I'm going to listen to this rattle. And once you make your rattle, I want you to practice doing the rattle with that song. And then I want you to practice doing that rattle, listening to the meditations. And then you will become the journeyer. You'll be able to do that for others. So have a great week. I'll get this uploaded. You'll get a copy of it tomorrow, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.